coming up on the Lui Diaz Podcast.
I don't need to be like satisfying anyone's expectations. I just need to be happy and do what makes me happy.
Hi, and welcome to the Lui Diaz Podcast, the podcast where you'll meet some of the most fascinating and incredible people from all walks of life. And together, we're inviting you in to be our special guest as we take you through some of their amazing experiences, adventures, and journeys. So sit back, and I hope you enjoy this episode of the Lui Diaz Podcast. Cata Castan, welcome to the Lui Diaz Podcast. It's so great to have you here. You know, one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on the podcast was because a good friend of mine and a former guest that people might remember from episode 12, Kat Huang, said that you're a badass woman. And I figured anyone that Kat describes as a badass woman is someone that I'd really love to have on the podcast. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Louis. And thanks, Kat, for saying that about me. She has said it to me also. She's really sweet saying it.
Yeah, and then I obviously connected with you, and then I sort of went through all your social media, and I understood why she described you as a badass woman, because there's a lot to you. Obviously, you're very active, you're very fit, but I just want maybe you to introduce yourself and sort of talk a little bit about who you are and what you do at the moment in your life.
Okay, so I met Kat because we both do aerial silks, like circus stuff, some people call it that.
Mm-hmm.
She's also a really badass woman. She's really strong and she's a really good performer. I'm really friendly too. So when she came here to Colombia with all her abilities and all her muscles and her strong body doing cool stuff in the silks, I was like, oh my gosh, she's really good. I need to know more about her. And that's how I met her. But when you, Louis, told me we're gonna do this episode, you sent me some questions about it that made me think. And you asked me, how do you describe yourself?
Yeah.
I describe myself as a passionate learner.
Yeah.
I really love learning things, especially like things that involve my body, like putting my body on challenge. So yeah, that's how I describe myself. Why I said that? Well, I think I never grow up. My body did, but I have an internal child inside me that always tells me to go do things that maybe some people in their adult life don't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like 28. I started roller skating. And I love it. Like, I love just going places and trying new things and finding different kinds of movements, climbing things. I see the world like a playground. I lived 2 years in United States, and that's where I learned all the aerial silks and the circus stuff. I also learned how to do some handstands and acrobatics and parkour and things like that. So I was like jumping around and playing around everywhere.
Yeah, wow. You know, I love the way that you described the world just then. You see the world as like a playground. Super interesting. And I did go through your Instagram. I was going through it last night, and there was this one montage that you had of basically all of the different activities that you do in one of your videos. And I was like, oh, wow, it really put it into perspective for me how active you are. And yeah, I think one of the things that got me so excited to want to talk to you was that idea that when you wrote to me in reply to my questions that, you know, you have this inner child that never left your body, because we're sort of thrust into growing up, aren't we? Like none of us, well, some of us really want to grow up. I spoke to someone who's a fan of the podcast recently, and we talked about this notion about growing up. And I said, you know what? I never wanted to sort of grow up. You know, I loved being a kid. You know, I loved climbing trees. I loved doing all this stuff that I did. I loved how able I was too. Like my body could do things that it definitely can't do now. And she was saying she wanted to grow up. She was really looking forward to growing up. And I think maybe for different reasons, because I think when you're a child, you're a bit restricted. You can't drive, for example. And so there's things to look forward to about growing up as well. But then you go to like these yoga classes or something like that, or you start to sort of venture into the world of spirituality. And then you start hearing things as an adult about your inner child, discovering your inner child again or listening to your inner child. So it's a notion that I've become a little bit more familiar with now, that inner child, and letting that inner child, have a voice or be seen, or let the inner child play. And one of the interesting, fascinating things that I learned from being in those yoga type environments, I suppose you'd say. And by the way, I probably come across like I do a lot of yoga. I did at one point, but at the moment I just don't have much time. But I remember my time in yoga classes really fondly. And they talk about, like I said, rediscovering that inner child. And I realized that, yeah, you can really lose touch with that side of yourself through, just the aging process, I suppose you call it. I won't call it growing up, because some of us don't grow up and some of us don't get wiser, or we just get older, right?
Yeah.
And I think we do lose that. And I think it's a beautiful thing when you discover that, you have an inner child, or like that you love to play. And so, yeah, that's one of the things that I really love about your write-up and your introduction, of course. And it's funny that you said that you took up skating at the age of 28, because I was 29 when I picked up skateboarding.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I had tried when I was 6 years old, and I fell off and put a hole in my chin and had to get stitches. And never, no way. You did too?
I have it, but I did it like last year on December.
Okay. I got mine out of the way early. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Comparing scars, by the way. If you can't see us right now, we're comparing scars.
Yeah, I can look at mine.
That's pretty good. That's a nice scar.
I have a lot, but all of them have a story to tell.
That's what I love.
That's why
Honestly, that's what I love about scars. It's like, yes, they're unattractive, I suppose you could say, aesthetically, but generally you've got a pretty good story behind each one, hopefully, anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's that notion of that inner child. And the other thing about it is that being a lifelong learner, something I could also really relate to, because I feel like maybe not as much with my body, although I do love learning about my body and its capabilities for sure, especially when, like I said earlier, like I come back to like an activity that I used to do when I was younger and I can't do that anymore. But I really love learning about the brain and the mind and how that works. So yeah, something else I could really relate to. Talk to me about your process then. Do you look at something and go, I love the idea of that? Like, what do I need to do with my body to get to do that?
Well, before that, I want to reply something about this all inner child and yoga, let the inner child out. I think when you're an adult, you kind of think a lot about things after taking decisions. And when you're a child, you don't. It's like just happens. You just go run because you wanna run, or you just go and try something new because you wanna feel what that feels in your body. So I think that's what happens with me. I don't think that much about doing things. It's just like, just let's do it and let's see what happens. I don't care if I'm good, if I fall, because I know sometimes I can fall. Sometimes that might hurt my body, but I really want to try it because that's something that I haven't done it, and I want to have this feeling in my body. When you're a child and when you're discovering the world, you want that feeling in your body. So that's what happens with me. I'm just looking for new feelings for my body all the time. And I'm also looking to see what my body is able to do. So
I love that.
Yeah, I love routine. Like I like to have a daily routine. Sometimes I do things to keep my body in shape, to have the ability to do the other things that I like. So to do that, I do CrossFit because that keep my body in the shape that I want and that I need to do the other things that I like.
Yeah.
Because these kind of sports that I do sometimes are hard with my body, and I need to have the muscles to do it, because aerial silks are really hard but beautiful. You feel like you're leaving all your emotions there. It's like art, but also you need to work with your muscles. So it's like a combination of two things that I really like. That's why I have been consistent with this sport. And when I skate, I feel like I can go anywhere and I'm super free and I just enjoy like the wind in my face. Is just like a really good feeling. Like I don't have to worry about anything else.
Yeah. I do love that. I think there's so much that you talk about there that's about mindfulness, isn't it?
I think it's another kind of mindfulness.
Yeah, let's talk
That
about that.
it's like a mindfulness, but with your body. Like you're
Yes.
feeling going inside you to the outside.
Yeah, it's true because I've felt this before and I've talked to other skaters about it when I was learning how to skate. We were talking about the same thing, just like nothing else matters. Like just you and
Yeah,
the
just
board.
you're in the present. And I think sometimes adult life makes you forget about living the present, and that's what really matters.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, so good. I love that because it's bringing me back. You're bringing me back to those feelings.
Oh,
Remembering what it was like to be on the board. I don't skate much lately, but I want to get
it's
back.
really cool.
Yeah, I want to get back into it.
Do it.
It's like you said. And it becomes addictive, right? This feeling becomes addictive. So
Yeah, that's what happens with that kind of sports. Like you have so many goals to work to be able to do one thing.
yes.
You have to go to a process that is like maybe sometimes it's a long process,
Yeah.
sometimes you're really good at it, sometimes it's easy, but that same movement sometimes is really hard, so you have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and you have always you're always finding another level to skate.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that actually because it reminds me of something that Kat said when in our chat about there's always another thing to achieve. There's always another level to get to, and that is good for some people because it can keep them engaged in an activity. Whereas, maybe other activities or other types of sports, you get good and that's it. There's no other level, something like that. But yeah, I really love that notion of, I guess, mindfulness, like the inner child, and sort of going back to what you were saying before about, what is it about being a child that makes it being a child? And it's exactly what you described. It was like you don't think so much about the risks because
You just take them.
you just take them, and you're capable as well. Like I remember when I was like maybe 10, 12, whatever. Like I was very, very. My mum used to call me like a monkey because I could just climb to the top of a tree like really easily. Like
I used to do that too.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And now I look at, if I went to the same trees, I'd be like, oh, that first branch is going to be a problem. You don't do that. I'm sure you don't. It's not like for you, but for me, it's like, I just can't do what I used to do anymore. And part of it is my physical capabilities have changed. And the other part of it is the fear. Like, I have health insurance now. I did. I'm a good adult that pays for health insurance. Enjoying the episode so far? Be sure to follow us and leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you're listening on. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the episode. So
yeah, but I think, I have fears. I feel scared sometimes. I don't want to do things, but I take the risk. Like I'm scared, but I want to do it because I want to feel what that feels, and I want to see if I'm able to do it, if my body is capable of do that, and if I'm not, I want to try to do it one more time and one more time until I can do it, because it looks really cool, so I want to be cool.
yeah. Oh, you definitely look cool when you're doing the stuff that you do. Jeez. Like, if your goal has been to hit cool, you've done that already. That's been achieved.
Well, I don't think that's my goal.
Okay, good. Because you've hit that one. You need a new goal. You need a better one. But yeah, I get it. Yeah. No, I'm kidding.
I want a harder one.
Yeah, for sure. I just going back to that, I really love that idea of, it's so interesting, and I love that we're exploring this and we're talking about this actually, because I guess there's so much we could talk about, but now you've really made me think and try and get in touch with that whole inner child thing and then realizing that this is a big issue for a lot of people. And the way that you described yourself was that, you know, you've got this adventurous spirit, and you think your internal child never left your body. That's the way that you phrased it. And I find that super interesting, because it says to me that maybe you have always just been like this, like your childhood into teenage years, into your early adulthood and beyond, right? Not that you look that old. But then for some people, like for me, for example, I suppose there was an element of me when I started skateboarding again at 29 that felt like I was trying to reclaim an inner child that I had lost. And that wasn't my purpose, but I could feel something inside me awakening that I feel like had maybe died a little bit, you know, in previous years. And I loved that rediscovery process. It was just so beautiful. It's so beautiful to get in touch with a side of you that feels free again.
Yeah.
And then thinking about like the whole inner child thing, I mean, and I was having a discussion with someone on Friday morning. I was chatting with someone, and I was even talking to my most recent guest, Martin Grahovski, Bulgarian filmmaker. We were talking about basically with Martin, for example, he makes films, he makes documentaries. And his first documentary that he made was one that he made when he was 16 to tell people back in North America what Bulgaria was like for the summer. So he decided, instead of writing them a letter or telling them about it, he made a film about it. And I was telling Martin that I feel like his current documentaries still have that feel all these years later. Like he hasn't lost that 16-year-old that, you know, was telling those summer stories. And when I think about like a creative process or trying to find happiness again, one of the things that I have just sort of come to appreciate is like, what were you doing when you were a kid? Just go back to that. You know, you will find the answers. That'll be maybe the start, but the answers will reveal themselves on how you find happiness. If you just remember what you used to do when you were a child and go back to that. Was it painting? Was it running? Was it climbing trees? And I'm like, oh, wow, that's super powerful, because that has worked for me. Just going, what did I used to love doing? Just do that. And it's like, yeah, I feel great again. I feel alive again. I feel good again.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And so that's...
Childhood is a really good time in our life.
Yeah. But
we need to look more for those days.
And I don't think it has to end the way it does. It ends so abruptly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't have to end.
Yeah, I think there's responsibilities, and then, you know, the path into adulthood is a beautiful path itself. You know, it's filled with so much turmoil as well. Like becoming an adult, you have to go through this teenage rite of passage, and in that you're kind of killing the inner child, that innocent side of yourself. So there's a death of the child that sort of happens through the teenage years, and then the adult you is in the world. And I think honestly a lot of adults are really boring. Sorry to say that.
Yeah, that's true. Like some people don't do what make them feel alive. They just do what they need to do to keep living, but not living the life that they want to live, just the life that they need to live. And you know what? When you were saying all this about the teenage life and everything, I think that was part of my life when my inner child was like not all out, because I wasn't like this like my whole life. But when I went to live in the United States, that was when my inner child was like, I need to get out of here. And that was when I started to do aerial silks and all the circus thing that I have there. I was learning a lot about circus, and that was when I said, like, I don't need to be like satisfying anyone's expectations. I just need to be happy and do what makes me happy. I'm the most important person in my life, so I just need to make me happy. I don't need to make anyone else happy. And that was when I started to do all the aerial circus and like just thinking about me and what makes me feel alive.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a point in your life too where you had touch with that inner child.
Yeah. Teenage life is really hard for everyone.
Yeah, for sure. for sure.
So yeah, in that part of my life, I was like discovering myself. I will say that when living there in the United States and doing all the circus and meeting people and being independent, that changed me.
Yeah, I'll touch on that independent notion in a minute, but I feel like we've been using the words inner child a lot, I suppose. And
Yeah.
let's just stick with it because it's working for us. But I also feel like maybe if I was listening to this, the inner child, if I was completely out of touch with that side of myself, it would feel very abstract. And I guess we've done our best to describe, that the inner child is just the playful one that takes risks and doesn't care what people think and doesn't think about hurting themselves and just goes for things and does the things that makes them happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to sort of then touch on that. So you're kind of similar to me then. Like at some point you sort of realized that something needed to come out, like you were holding back. And so what was your life like before? Had you ever done anything circusy?
Not circusy, but all my life I like sports. But when I was in school, I needed to find like a class that I wanted to focus on. And they were a lot of, they were like electrics and mechanics and administration and also sports.
Right. Okay.
And I should choose sports, but I didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
chose administration because that was like what people should choose to be a good adult. So that's what I chose. And maybe that was not my smartest move, but I did it. So yeah, I was like just finding myself, also doing sports because I like them, but not like in the way that I want them. Just like having my friends, trying to meet more boys. Yeah, that was a teenager trying to find what she wanted to do in her life.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. It makes sense. You're going through these phases and you're discovering all these things. And then, like you say, you decided to choose the thing that you felt was
Yeah.
the right thing to choose through some notion of responsibility, some
Yeah,
idea.
what my parents, what the society will approve.
Yeah.
But that was not what my heart wanted. And it was until I went to the United States and I don't have family there, I don't have anyone there. So I was like, I'm just gonna satisfy myself. I'm just gonna find myself.
Okay, yeah, I find that notion super interesting as well. So you think that there's a certain part of like Colombian society or maybe Bogota specifically, if that's where you grew up.
Yeah, that's a cultural Colombian thing.
Right. I don't think it's just Colombia. I think it's actually a global thing, if I'm honest. Or
Yeah.
maybe more a Western world or no. The East is really like that as well. They really push their kids into adulthood and responsibility as well. They can. So yeah, I'll call it a global thing, right? It's a yeah,
I think it's global.
yeah, it's so interesting. So we look at our friends and our neighbors and our families, and sometimes they actually put pressure on us and tell us, we want you to do this. This is the right thing to do. Sometimes it's just the idea of things. My daughter at the moment is going probably through the same exact thing at the moment. Actually, she's just about to turn 15, and she called me up the other day, and she's like, "Oh, I've got to go to school, and I've got to present 2 career choices to the career counselor there." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Do you have any idea what you want to do?" And she's like, "No." And I said, "Well, just go to the career counselor and tell them that you have no idea what you want to do and that's perfectly okay."
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I guess using her as an example, I can see how, because I forget, it was so long ago for me, being that age, I guess, that I forget that we do feel this pressure from society. Maybe it's present, like actually present, and maybe it's subconscious that we need to make certain decisions to fit into the adult mold. And now look, you
Yeah.
and I have already said most adults are really
That-
boring. So
yeah, like why we think like that? And I think if I haven't go out of my country, I will never find that. Like I will keep trying to satisfy other people's needs.
yeah, that's a big one. That's a whole other topic in itself, isn't it? But it's so true. Like we make decisions sometimes to please other people and not ourselves. And that's what I love about your story, is that you talk about making you happy and discovering those things that makes you happy. So important. Honestly, you could be listening to this right now and just go, oh yeah, well, that sounds nice. But really, like, to put it into practice, like to break the shackles of pleasing other people and to just go and please yourself, that's so liberating in life.
And what I think you need to do to start doing that is finding yourself being alone. Like you need to
Alone.
be just with yourself. Yeah.
Aha.
Just be with yourself to find what you want to do, what makes you happy. Because if you have like other people around, you're like kind of distracted. It's like something that you cannot control. And I think you need to be kind of alone. Yeah, like I was in another country, kind of because I knew the people where I was staying and things like that. But I was mostly alone, and that's where I find what made me happy, what I wanted to do, what I wanted to add to my life.
You know, I love that idea of that, actually, because I have all of these episodes of my podcast now flashing back to me, you know, sort of almost hearing a similar thing. For example, it was my first episode with Lewis Haskins, where he talked about having studied to be a teacher here and then having money saved up for a mortgage. And then obviously that linear path of life, going to do your career, buy your house, start your family, all of that. But then it wasn't until he had a trip to Tanzania where he saw things, and then he decided to completely change his trajectory and become a filmmaker. You know, and I think that process that you're talking about in your own experience about going to the United States and feeling liberated from these structural, like, society expectations of you is actually really common, more common than I even thought. And yeah, it's such an important thing to do, to get out of your physical environment, especially because you might not realize that your physical environment, your immediate community, might be the ones that are holding you back, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. Like, it's in your head maybe. Because, for example, you might come back from, you know, that time away where you've discovered yourself and you've reignited your inner child. You might come back home and be doing all these different things, and people might not even have a problem with it. But then on the other hand, they don't. Yeah. See? Yeah. So it's really mental, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It is mental.
Not for everyone. For some people, like, the pressure's there.
Yeah.
And I think Kat, for example, is an interesting story there because, like, you know, obviously her parents, if you heard our episode, you know, her parents were really trying to push her into becoming a doctor or a lawyer, as she said. So, you know, we can have that pressure, which explains why some people move to the other side of the world to get away from their parents.
That was not what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
But I knew things, like I found things that I wasn't looking for. It was beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously the roller skating came in at some point. But yeah, it's funny that you say that. And then also what I just remembered that I wanted to touch on was that, you know, I kind of feel, and I hear this a lot, and it's definitely true, that Latin American culture is very patriarchal. And so, you know, as a woman, I can imagine, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I can imagine in a patriarchal society that there's also that added pressure of feeling like you need to just do what you're told or be responsible. Or you might feel like in a patriarchal society that you have less freedom to make choices that are related to your happiness.
Well, that have changed a lot. It's not like all days. But yeah, sometimes is maybe just in our heads that we think we need to not find our happiness, but find other people's happiness. Like build a family and find their happiness. And our happiness should be the last thing, but it's not like that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you said that it feels for you like that sort of whole patriarchal side of it is the old days, because I see it come up a bit, you know, now for people that sort of are traveling through South America, for example. One of the beautiful things that Lucy Barnard recently said to me, actually, was that she does touch on, like, South America being generally quite patriarchal, But then she also said that when she goes into towns and she tells these people that she's doing this incredible hike from basically the tip of Argentina to the tip of Alaska. She's hiking all the way from south to
Oh,
north.
wow.
Yeah. And she said that when she goes into the towns and tells people what she's doing, she said it's especially the men that say to her, wow, incredible. Yes, of course you can do it. And I really love that. I really love that these notions of Latin culture being highly patriarchal, they're starting to break down. And that you don't, like, obviously you, from there, living there, you don't feel that as strongly anymore as maybe women once did. It's really great to hear.
Yeah.
But
Well, about what we were saying before, I remember a story.
yeah.
I think one of the greatest trips that I have was when I travel alone. I have done it once, and it was to a city here that is called Santa Marta. It's like in the coast with the beach, and it's a place where you can rest, but it's a place also where you can find a lot of adventure. And I was there. I didn't know what I find there, and it was really cool. I took my roller skates and I climbed kind of a mountain. I went to Taganga, is called the place that I went in my skates. And it was a really good experience because I was there just looking things that make me happy.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of people, but I didn't need to ask anyone to, oh, what do you want to do now? Oh, let's do this tomorrow. I was just like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to do this. And I did it, and it was really cool. And it was like a lot of adventure there. So that was really cool. I was jumping in these like ropes that are like in the trees, and you go down to the sea. And that was really cool. I was surfing. I was like yeah, was a really good experience.
Yeah. I'm just looking at images of Santa Marta now, and it does look like, not only like a beautiful holiday destination, but it does look adventurous. I can see the mountain. It has this kind of tiki feel about it, like with little huts and things that I can see as well. What
I have a bit in my Instagram about that trip.
Yeah, so it was like sort of that traveling on your own where you sort of felt like really liberated.
Yeah.
And I think, to touch on that, we do rush into adulthood in ways like, and getting into relationships is really one of those hallmarks of adulthood, right? A lot of people, when they become adults, get the job, study something, maybe start the career or whatever that might look like, and find a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. And I think we tend to rush into that. Like, I know I certainly did, as I said.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a career and I work as a normal person. I work in a university in communications, but I'm also in the side finding new things to do, new things to learn for hobby. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's important to say, like, that you definitely still have a life that is of responsibility that you have. But I guess touching on that whole idea of getting into adulthood quickly, I think the whole thing about you just saying that you feel like you're most free to discover yourself and the things that make you happy when you're alone. I think that a lot of people can forego that completely when they find a partner and they feel like they need to do things together.
Yeah. Well, yeah, partner is a big deal. Like,
it is, yeah.
I think some people find a partner to not being alone because they don't feel that good with themselves. Like, I feel really good just being with me. I enjoy my company. So for me, it's not that easy to find a partner because I feel complete. Some people don't feel complete, and that's when they start to find a partner early, maybe in their lives. But because I feel really good with my life and with my company, I enjoy being alone also. So if right now I'm not with anyone, but maybe in the future if I'm with someone, it has to be because I really enjoy their company, not because I need them to complete something in my life, because my life is already complete.
I love the way that you put that, because like you didn't pull any punches there. For real, that's a thing that for a lot of people, even listening right now, I can imagine thinking about current relationships or past relationships, thinking, oh, yeah, is this relationship serving me? Why am I here? Am I happy with myself? Those are really hard questions to ask yourself and hard things to really reflect on.
Yeah, like that's the thing that you need to do first. You first need to be happy with yourself before being happy with anyone else. Because if you're not happy with yourself, you cannot be happy with anyone else.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And that's through like living the experience, realizing that maybe at times I wasn't most happy with myself, and maybe I'm still not, but I'm discovering it. It's a process, and I understand that by being on my own and not having a partner at the moment, that allows me the opportunity to discover that what most makes me most happy. It gives it the space. Yeah, it's so important. So important. So underestimated, because it's like we were talking about this adulthood, this rite of passage, and I feel like it's such a hallmark of adulthood. Finish school, get a job, find a partner, settle down. In that exact order. And obviously finding a partner is a key pillar of that, right? But what they don't tell you is that if you haven't found yourself, you might never find yourself, or you might lose yourself completely in the process of that togetherness, of creating that bond. And I think it takes a lot of courage to realize that. And I'm like, I was kind of just sitting here thinking, wow, I'm like got little goosebumps when you said, I love my own company, because how many of us can actually say that? And here you are. It's like, what? This person loves their own company? I don't even think about that. But I realize that I kind of do too.
Yeah.
And it's very selfish. And it
is, yeah.
And it's okay, because the first thing you think is, hang, that's so selfish. But also, hang on, there's actually nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with being selfish from time to time. Not all the time, of course.
Yeah, I love people. I'm also really friendly, and I have a lot of friends, and I'm a good friend also. I don't want the audience to think that I'm a selfish person. But I think you are your priority. You're first than anyone else.
Yeah, I feel like this is turning into a therapy session.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I love that whole idea of that, because you talked about being independent and what that meant to you. And that can be really misconstrued. You can read someone say, oh, I love being independent. And there's so many ways that you can take that. I think some people, their idea of independence comes from a place of being jaded from a relationship where they felt maybe oppressed. And independence is there like, fuck you to the world, or something like that. Or like, I'm independent, like, look at me. But it's not really like that at all with you. With you, it's an appreciation for the gifts that you can bring into your own life experience through the process of discovering your alone time and what you're capable of.
Yeah, it's more like learning about yourself, what you like, about what you're able to do. That's beautiful, I think. Finding yourself is a really cool thing to do.
And so, like, and obviously we've touched on a lot of things that you've learned about yourself, but what are you learning about yourself right now? And if not yourself, what are you learning about the world? What's the most important thing on your mind at the moment?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. What I'm learning about myself. Well, right now, I'm learning that I'm scared about things, and that is fine to not have all the abilities that you want to. Right now, I'm learning how to ride a motorcycle, and it's been a difficult time.
How's it?
Because it's not that easy, and like I have learned to control myself, my body, but to control another thing is hard. So I'm learning that I need to take the risk, but also be patient with it. Like, it's okay if I'm not really good at the beginning, and I have to be patient, and I have to just do it and take the time that I need to really learn what I want to learn.
Yeah, that things take time, especially things that are out of our comfort zone.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think I wanted to share something with you, actually. I wrote down while I was reading your notes. If they were to cast a Colombian Wonder Woman, it might be Cata.
Oh,
That's what I wrote.
oh it.
And then I thought, oh, of course she's learning to ride a motorbike. And I think the reason that I wrote that is because, you know, when I see photos of you, you feel very empowered. And then you see the photos of you like twisting around through silks. And then that montage that I mentioned earlier of you like rock climbing and doing all of these activities, bungee jumping, all of this stuff. And you just think, okay, you're almost like a stunt woman in a way.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. And I think you'd be a really great role model for a lot of girls out there that, you know, might feel limited. But not only girls, I think boys do as well. I think boys feel like potentially can feel limited, especially these days, because people growing up with so much technology in their lives and less outdoorsy experiences, that they feel potentially quite limited in what their body's capable of doing. And I think like here you are well into adulthood, proving that our bodies are capable of such like amazing things, and that those things that we can do with our body can really enrich our lives. That's what I wanted to say.
No, that's beautiful. I love it.
If you haven't already, find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok, where you can catch additional content and grace us with your thoughts. Thanks again and enjoy the rest of the episode.
Sometimes I find myself with other people telling me that I have inspired them. And that's beautiful. Like, I love when people say that, because I wasn't looking for that. I wasn't looking to inspire anyone else, but just like being myself and enjoying my life have inspired other people. And I feel really good when other people say that they have inspiration about what I do. It's just like having hobbies. Is the only thing that I do, like having hobbies, enjoying them.
Yeah, I think that's really great. But you know, kind of what that reminds me of as well is that, yeah, it's amazing that you're inspiring other people, and that it takes for them to come to us and tell us that, for us to realize that our actions actually not only can enrich our lives, but can show someone else how to enrich theirs too. That's something that we forget in our process, because our process is so self-centric. It's a self-centric process to go out and discover the things that really make us happy and really bring us joy. And we don't think at all once when we're in that process. Like, is someone watching this? Can someone see this? And is it lighting a fire inside them? And I think eventually, at some point, once you've gone through your self-discovery process enough and you're fulfilled and empowered, you do realize that actually a lot of us have a responsibility within our community to realize that we're passing on the baton, for example, like in a relay race. You know, like, hey, this is how I discovered my process, and this might be how you can discover yours too.
Yeah.
That it's not actually, in the end, it's not really a selfish thing, that it can be such a great thing for our communities to be able to share that and acknowledge that.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I think some people like force themselves to inspire others, but they don't enjoy it. Like, they just want it for other reasons. No, because they like enjoy what they are doing. They just want like to, I don't know what. But yeah, they're not enjoying it. And I think enjoying what you do, that is what inspire others.
Yeah, like they can see the authenticity of it.
Yeah.
And they can tell when someone's not doing something authentically, I suppose, as well. Yeah, super interesting. I love that. I love this chat, because obviously you gave me some notes to work with, and then obviously I took my own notes like I mentioned just then, but I didn't really know where we were going to go. And yes, of course, I've spoken to Kat, and she's also a badass woman, but
She is.
But at least I know Kat, right? I know her. We've spent time together.
Yeah.
Even just a short time, but enough. And I was like, how do I speak to a badass Colombian woman that I've never met before? It's like, you know, where are we going to go with this? Because I don't like to script things out or have a running sheet of the things that I like to cover. And sometimes it works well and sometimes it doesn't. But, with you really focusing on, especially early on in our conversation about the inner child thing, I really love that we did that and that we went there, because it's such an important part of rediscovery, actually, that I believe should be part of everyone's life. But unfortunately, we do this whole child, teenager, adult thing and we stop kind of there and we evolve a little bit in the adult part. But I feel like we failed to rediscover. And that's one of the key things that I'm kind of becoming obsessed with, just the idea of thinking about it. Because it's so true. Like when I did the skateboarding, I felt things that I hadn't felt in a long time.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The funny thing about skate parks as well, and you would have experienced this for sure, is like you show up to the skate park as you're an adult. Obviously, you were in your late 20s. I was in my late 20s, early 30s. And you start making friends. And you think, oh, that's so weird. Like when was the last time I just showed up somewhere with roller skates on or a skateboard and I just started making friends with random people? Well, like when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's true. That's totally true.
And you're like, this is what it's like to be in the flow of a natural way of living. It is to be discovering your inner child and to go to a park or a place where other people are doing the same. And you all just start randomly talking to each other. It's funny because I in December last year, after coming back from Europe and having sold all of my skateboards, I bought a skateboard again. And around the corner from my house, there's this little pump track, which is, you may have seen it, a lot of surf skate kind of...
Ramps?
It's not ramps. It's
like
a course. Yeah, it's like a course, right? It goes around.
Yeah, like goes up and down and up.
Exactly. And I thought, I haven't tried one of those before. I'm going to try it out. I took my skateboard there. I tried it out. And the first day I was there was this dad there with his son, and the dad was trying to encourage his son to get on the skateboard and go around the pump track like good dads do, and his son completely lost interest. He wasn't interested at all in doing it. And so what ended up happening is that I was going around the pump track, and I'm 38, right? I'm going around the pump track, and this guy, he's late 40s, and then so he just takes the skateboard and he starts going around the pump track. Eventually, we stop each other, we start talking, we made friends. And I came home from that experience buzzing because I was like, I just went to the skate park and made a friend. How many 30-year-olds could say that they did that? That's a 12-year-old.
I do that all the time. Yeah, it's like you're saying, like when you were a child, you were just at the park running around and you find another child and you say, hi, let's play. And you never do that when you're an adult, unless you're at a party or something like that. But when you do roller skating or sports like this, like aerial silks also, you go to a playground for adults. And you start speaking to other people about what you love, about what you guys have in common. What happened to me also is that I have these friends from different sports like aerial silks, roller skating, and I have speak with them a lot of times. Like we spend a lot of time together, but I don't know what they do for a living. I don't know what is their job. I'm just interested about what we have in common, like about these hobbies that we share. I'm also interested about their life, but we don't take the time to speak about that. We just take the time to enjoy the present.
Yes, and that's that last thing that I completely forgot about earlier that you talked about, enjoying the present. So much about mindfulness, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being here now, and there's nothing like an activity of some sort and a group of people to bring you into the present moment.
Yeah.
I really do love that. But it's so cool. It's so cool that we can do these things and we can give ourselves permission to do these things and discover these things. And not be limited by this idea of age and responsibility.
Yeah, that is not important.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because I was at a Grand Prix party earlier this year. The Melbourne Grand Prix was on, and I was there with my friend Chris. And this woman came up to us straight away, and she said, "What do you do? And what do you do?" Like as in for a job. And I was like, "This is one of the least fascinating parts about being an adult is talking about what we do for a living. Like it's honestly boring."
Yeah, that's true.
And I feel like it's very common for people to be driven down a social construct where they talk about their careers so much. So it makes me like, it fills me with joy to hear you say that you go roller skating with your friends, and of course you're interested in them as people, but you don't talk about any of the non-skate related stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I was with a friend like last week, I think, and he's from Medellin, another city here in Colombia. And he came here to an event. I don't know how it's called, like all this cosplay stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was here in Bogota, and he told me like, hey, let's hang out. And he's a friend from skating, and we started to chat. And I was like, what do you do for a living? Like, we have met a lot of times, but I don't know what to do. And he also didn't know what I do for a living.
Yeah, it's funny actually, because when I met my friend Chris, it took me like a couple of months to ask him what he did for a living. And I think those are the best friendships. And I remember, those times when I was at the skate park, I was obviously in my 30s. I was obviously an old man. I believe I was starting to get grey hair in my beard then. But none of the kids cared, and I call them kids because they were like, 15, 13, 17, 20 even. They felt like kids to me. But none of them cared. They were just like, oh, what are you doing? What are you trying today? Oh, yeah, let's help you do that.
Yeah, that's also another thing that is beautiful about hobbies. Like other people help you, encourage you. Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I know I've mentioned this a couple of times before on the podcast, but the skateboarding community especially is, I feel, extremely welcoming and extraordinarily supportive as well. They don't care where you are in your journey.
Yeah.
They just want to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's true. And well, you're saying it about skateboarding community because you're in it.
Yeah.
But in circus is like that. In roller skating is like that also. And I think that's the thing that I most enjoy about the hobbies that I have. Like the community is really important.
Yeah, super important. And I mean, I touch on communities a lot because I'm starting to realize through this process of having all of these discussions with so many different people from all over the world that do different things, that don't know each other, how important community really is to us. What does it mean? And, I don't want to put it this way, like, what do we get out of it? But one of the things that we can get out of it, as much as we can give back, is that encouragement, like uplifting someone else. It's like feeling uplifted by these other people, feeling supported.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think, like, outside of our hobbies, do we experience that much? Like, I know that at times in workplaces, I have felt the opposite of that. I felt unsupported. I felt like people see me as maybe a threat and they don't want to help me. They don't want to see me succeed.
Like everyone is so busy in their stuff.
Yeah, but then you go to your hobby and you're at the skate park suddenly and someone's like, oh, I'll show you a new trick, or let's try that together.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that communities interact within the hobby spaces is a real blueprint for how communities can be built and how people can come together and the world can become a better place.
Yeah, that's true. And when you were saying this, I was thinking about the goals of some people when they, for example, start going to the gym. They wanted to be thin, they want to have muscles, they want to look better. But what they don't know until they go there and they fall in love with their bodies and with the exercise is that the most satisfying thing is to enjoy what they're doing.
Right, yeah. Enjoying the process and feeling that capability. I'm just trying to reflect and get myself back into that place as well.
Yeah.
Because I go through phases where I work out and some phases where I don't. And I think actually it wasn't until I discovered yoga that I started doing a whole different style of trying to, like, rediscovering my body, realizing that when I went to the gym, I would spend like half an hour doing these stretches and really stretching myself out, maybe realizing that yoga was what I wanted all this time, and feeling that appreciation for what my body was capable of and what it wasn't. capable of as well. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I learned. I learned what I wasn't.
Yeah.
Especially when I was in Bikram yoga. Oh, I hated that. I hated being in that room with the heat. But yeah, just seeing how some people impressively get themselves to a place where they can push through and really push the boundaries of what they're capable of. I really respect that a lot. And so
Yeah.
what's next for you? Like, where are you going with all this?
Well, I actually don't know. Like, that was another hard question in your questionnaire.
Yeah, you said something about watching whales, and I was like, that's not good enough. There's nothing to do.
Like, I want to do that, but it's just like take a trip and do that.
Yeah.
But, well, sometimes I don't know, and things just came to my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm really excited about the journey of riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe go see whales in my motorcycle.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, did you get whales there in Colombia? Do they come to the coast? They do.
We have them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereabouts? On the north or the west?
I mean, we have them in different places. I'm not sure if it's at the north or the west.
Yeah, because I can see the Caribbean Seas on the north, and then I guess you got the Pacific Ocean on the west. That's probably where the whales are. Underneath Panama, near Cali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have like a place that is called Nuki. That is a good place to go. That's what I heard.
Right.
Because I haven't done it.
Yeah, so you can ride your motorcycle from Bogotá to Nuki.
I'm not sure. Maybe to some place close, but not until Nuki.
Yeah. What a great goal. You actually really are inspiring.
Oh.
Yeah, believe it. Take it.
I enjoy your reflections too. Like you made me think more.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, you make me think too. But yeah, I guess, life can be really sad if all it is aging and responsibility. And I love how we both agreed that most adults are boring earlier, because I don't want to come across the wrong way when I say that, but it's true. And, that's why so many of us go to movie theaters to watch documentaries about people that are doing like incredible things, because something inside of us says, oh, wow, look at that. That person is doing something incredible. And what is that? Well, it's a choice that they've made to do something incredible. It's a choice that they made to be different and take risks.
Yeah.
And I think in your story, you've touched on all of those things. You've touched on personal choices. You've touched on risk taking. You've touched on being present in the moment. You've touched on community. You've touched on self-discovery through being alone and loving your own company. Like, all of these things are just like the key pillars of a fulfilled, happy life. And a fulfilled, happy life is a successful life for me. And we haven't even talked about career at all. Like, I didn't mention career in one of those.
No.
And so it's like, I think Cata's just helped me to understand your reflections have helped my reflections.
Same way here.
Yeah. It's been so good. And I don't want to end this conversation at all.
It's hard to end conversations like this.
Yeah, it is. But I think, for our audience and for the people in our lives and your friends and family, I think they by now would have, at least if they didn't already, gotten a really great idea of the journey that you've been on over these years to discover, your true self or your happiest self. And I think, for example, in Australian culture, if I can touch on something, there's a real idea that a rite of passage into discovery is by going out into the world and going and seeing things. And I 100% agree that that's definitely a way. But one of the things that's becoming more and more evident to me, and especially by talking to people like you, is that when you go out into the world, it's also an amazing opportunity to go inwards and discover things about yourself as well. And that's another thing that you touched on through your trip to the United States, right? It wasn't about going to see the Grand Canyon, or the Empire State Building. It was about what you were getting out for you. I love that.
And I didn't know it. That was the best part.
Yeah.
Sometimes you take risks and you don't know where you're gonna go, like what you're gonna find there. And sometimes you find most things that you were expecting or better things.
Ah, God, yeah. You know, I love that. I love that so much because it's so true. I love that you say that when you take risks, you discover things that you didn't necessarily intend or think that you'd discover.
Yeah.
Really reminds me of the time when I spoke to Morgan Bryant in episode 20, that she was traveling overseas and she had this Lonely Planet guide, and then she just closed it and put it away and just decided to see what she found on the road without the Lonely Planet guide. And she found this like beautiful place that, you know, she'll always remember, because to her it was like that symbol of like, put the book away, close the expectations, the known things, and look for the unknown things. The unknown things are a lot of the time, the most valuable things for us. But yeah, it's been amazing to talk to you. It has. Finally get to know you. And thank you for agreeing and coming onto the podcast. It's been so great to have you. You've given us so much gold in our conversation, but I wondered if there's, you know, any piece of advice that you might have for people before we leave.
I will say, just like, find your happiness. You're the most important person in your life.
Yes, it's something that I can really resonate with, and hopefully it's ringing in the ears of people right now as they're listening to this. So yeah, Cata, I want to say a big thank you to you for being on the podcast, and I can't wait to come to Bogotá and hit the skate park with you sometime.
Oh, that will be amazing. Thank you, Lui. That was a really, really good chat. And you're welcome here whenever you want.
Oh,
for sure.
Of course, yes. Kat's invited me before, and
you have 2 invitations now.
I have a responsibility to come to Colombia really soon.
Yeah.
Yes. I should really start booking that trip. It's been awesome, Cata. Thank you.
Thank you, Lui.
We'd love to know what you thought of that episode of the Lui Diaz podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and even TikTok to let us know. And be sure to follow, subscribe, and leave us a review on Spotify, where you can catch some of our other really great episodes. Thanks for listening, and catch you next time.